is he wants to bring the children out of Nauru. And this is a progressive area, and we know that this area supports cultural enrichment, and we know that they supported open borders under the Kevin Rudd and Julie Gillard regime. But what we're pointing out is that this area might be a racist area, because we haven't seen any of this in cultural enrichment around here. What we've seen is lots of Muslim refugees being sent down to Fairfield. We've seen lots of Africans sent over to Blacktown. But isn't it strange how we don't see them around here? That's the hypocrisy of this area around here, because they have said quite clearly they don't want to be culturally enriched. This area is largely a Jewish and an Anglo-Saxon enclave, and it isn't good enough. If Karen Phelps is serious, she can make an announcement that they want Muslim refugees put in the suburb of Wentworth. Not good enough. This is a racist area.
You're a racist, mate. You're a racist. How many Africans and Muslims have you?
Say it loud. Say it clear. We want Muslim refos here. Say it loud. Say it clear. We want Muslim refos here. Say it loud. Say it clear. We want Muslim refos here. Say it loud. Say it clear. We want Muslim refos here. Say it loud. Say it clear. We want Muslim refos here. Say it loud. Say it clear. We want Muslim refos here.
Say it loud.
Say it clear. We want Muslim refos here.
How many Muslims have you got at your place, you know? There's all these people preaching diversity and acceptance of refugees. Yeah, I bet you do a lot of that at home by yourself, mate. A lot of flogging, you know? Like a lot of these people in here. You've swamped working class suburbs with refugees and migrants, and whites are a minority. Whites are a minority.
Here's what we know about the Jewish community. There's a great deal of tension between Muslims and Jewish. The Muslims quite clearly don't like the Jewish, and we saw that the other day, where a Muslim kicked the Jewish representative Dick Alderholm out of a multicultural meeting. They wouldn't let the Jewish into the meeting. So there you go. There's tension between the Muslim and the Jewish community. The Jewish don't want them around here. Where are the asylum seekers around this area? I think it's high time what we did is we emptied out a multi-story unit box.
That's where the
and put
asylum
some African refugees and some Muslim refugees into the unit box, so this area can be culturally enriched like Blacktown has and Fairfield. It's only fair. I hope this area isn't racist, and I'm beginning to think this area is a racist area.
Very good.
They hate refugees and they hate people that aren't white.
We want to settle.
We haven't seen any ethnic enrichment around here. What's going on?
Say it loud, say it.
Go home and say it loud, say it clear. Refugees are welcome here. Say it loud, say it clear. Refugees are welcome here.
Where are they? Muslim refugees are welcome here.
Where are you?
Where are the Muslim refugees here? Where are they? The hypocrisy, the Wentworth voters, and the people here that live here. The upper echelons of political power in Australia and corporate power, and you know what? Where's the diversity? You've got hardly any diversity. You're hypocrites. You're dumping
Yes,
in
we
white
do.
working
You're
class
here.
suburbs in Western Sydney, where white people are struggling, and it's absolute. Sorry.
Shit.
It's absolute genocide what you've done. We've had betrayal for so long for the last 40 years in Australian politics, whether it's Labor, Liberal or Greens. They all back open borders. They all back the United Nations plan to bring more African and Muslim refugees to Australia, displacing Australians. We've only got another 20 years, and the beautiful white Australians have built this country. In 20 years, they're going to be a minority. But guess what? In Wentworth, they won't be a minority. They won't be a minority in Wentworth. You'll maintain your position in Wentworth because refugees aren't moved here. How many refos at Western Sydney, parts of Melbourne on the outskirts, they're dumped. And the working class areas where once prosperous white people used to live there, you know what? They're gone, the white flight. They've been driven out. They've been driven out by Labor, Liberal and Green policy. That's genocide, systematic and deliberate. It's hatred. It's hatred, self-hating whites. The worst type of racist ever. But you should accept more refugees. You should have more Africans here. Have more Muslims here. We want to see the diversity in Wentworth. It's only fair that we share the cultural diversity.
I'd like you to stay until the police arrive and we'll deal with it.
Mate, you're not the boss. You're not. I'm in behalf of the boss here. No, you're not the boss. No, you're not. I'm an Australian. What have you done for this country? What have you done for this country? Yeah, good on you. And I bet you support open borders. I bet you support open borders.
Are you
I
intimidating,
bet you support
mate?
open borders.
Stop being quiet.
And I'm Chinese.
I'm
Chinese, yeah.
Okay, what we're trying to achieve here is...
Stop intimidating, mate.
No,
Get out of your
no,
state.
No,
you're
you're trying to shut us down because you don't like freedom of speech, and you've got ethnic privilege. You've got ethnic
Yeah, well,
privilege in
don't
Australia,
go,
and when
don't
white
go.
men speak up,
Don't
when
go in
white
front
people
of
stand
someone
up
like
and
that.
say, we don't
Who are you?
appreciate
I'm
it,
probably
you
more
don't
white than
like
you
it.
are, so I'm
Because you
trying-
know what this is?
Speak for all
This is
white
no, this is democracy. This is democracy.
Yeah, well, all
This
you
is
white
real
people
democracy.
self-loathing whites as
Freedom of
well.
speech.
All you white people
Democracy,
are
this is what it is, and you hate it. You pretend that you like it, but you hate it. When white people speak up and say, we've had enough. We've had enough of the betrayal. We've had enough of the betrayal.
laughing and smiling. Where are
Why
the
don't you go and live out at
refugees in the Wentworth
Cabramatta or
area?
Fairfield or Blacktown
Where are
or
they?
Bankstown
Go and
or
live
one of
there.
those culturally enriched areas? Hypocrites. Absolute hypocrites.
Under the Kevin Rudd and Julie Gillard regime, the worst government in Australian history, worse than Gough Whitlam, the communist, and Gough Whitlam was a communist, and they lionised Gough Whitlam. Oh, he was the great saviour of Australia, the worst Prime Minister in Australian history, and he was an outright communist. They support open borders. If Shorten gets elected, it will be full-on open borders. The Labor Party loves Muslims and they love cultural enrichment. You know, Julie Gillard launched an inquiry into the religious institutions in terms of sexual abuse and sexual misconduct. But there was one group that they left off. One group. I'll give you one guess who it was. Oh, I'm really confused about which group of those being left off. Well, it was the Muslims and it was Islam. And Julia Gillard, and at the highest echelons of the Labor Party, know that there is sexual misconduct inside the Muslim community.
He's losing us.
That's
Beautiful.
Where's the Labor Party now? Because they know it would have uncovered a can of worms inside the Islamic community. Child brides being sent overseas. Female genital mutilation. There's been one inquiry, one court case Australian-wide into the Islamic community for their misconduct. And they are still completely silent about it, and so is the Liberal Party. That is the hypocrisy of the cabal of the Liberal Party, the Labor Party and the Australian Greens.
The megaphone all just here. Over here we've got somebody hosing us, which is assault. That shows you the level. That shows you the level of democracy in this area. They hate it,
This
don't
gentleman
they?
with the hose, he hasn't got an argument, instead he's resorted to assault.
You're doing us
If he's
a
got
favour.
some answers to the issues that we've raised, maybe he'd like to come down here and talk about it instead of playing with his hose.
Good, mate. That's not going to grow, mate. The concrete's not going to grow, just like your brain isn't going to grow.
And just waste the water, mate. Water restriction.
How many Muslims have you got on your couch, sir? How many African refugees? You see lots of diversity around here. How come you don't open your arms to Muslim and African refugees in the area? It's about time that the hypocrites of this area led the way and you practice what you preach. That's what we want to see. We want to see these hypocrites around here. Practice what you preach. You want diversity? There was a recent poll where nearly 60% of the local residents said that we want more diversity. We want the refugees out of Nauru. Well, why not open a centre here? You can have a few mosques. You can have a female genital mutilation. Couple of those centres. You can send your daughters there. Maybe Miriam can marry Muhammad. Smash racism. Offer your daughters up to the Islamics. That's what they want. They love white girls. They love the converts. They're looking for converts all the time. And the privileged Anglos and the privileged Jewish people over in the eastern suburbs who are insulated from the absolute collapse of Australia. Middle Australia has absolutely been, it's been raped. It's been raped because of government policy. And many Australians in different areas are now a minority because of government policy and people in these sort of areas supporting policies that are against the Australian people. Don't you touch that. Don't you touch that. You know? You behave yourself. You don't believe in democracy. You're a communist. Your party has done nothing for Australia. All you do, you're puppets of the United Nations. You're racist. Where's the diversity here? Where's the diversity here, sir? How many Muslims do you have on your couch? How many Africans? How many Africans do you have?
We have a lot of people.
Where's the diversity in Wentworth? You're a hypocrite. You're a hypocrite, mate. This whole area is a hypocrite. You preach diversity and you haven't got diversity. So typical of this area, so typical of the Greens too, open borders. You're always talking about open borders and climate change. There's another one, another big scam. Immigration, multiculturalism, everything to weaken Australia. They want to weaken Australia so they can hand over sovereignty to the United Nations. So we're not strong and independent. That's what the Greens are about. That's what the Liberal Party is about. That's what the Labor Party is about. It's treason, it's betrayal, and it's got to stop. Bunch of hypocrites. You preach diversity, but you don't practice it.
Australian Greens had a policy for the refugees to solve the refugee crisis, and their policy was called Safe Pathways. Safe Pathways, and the media geniuses never asked any questions about what that policy meant. What did Safe Pathways mean? What it meant was they were going to create a free taxi service and fly refos in, Muslim refugees, on jet planes paid by the Australian taxpayer direct from Jakarta. That was the policy of the Australian Greens. Well done. Commos, all of them. The thing is, they never put, when they've got their policy, where are they always put? They are always put out in Western Sydney, they're put out at Blacktown, and they're put out at Fairfield, but they never put in areas like this. Not good enough.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we're here today because we're sick of the betrayal and the treason. We're sick and tired of seeing the major parties preach diversity, preach open borders, say that we should accept more refugees, and they live in the finest areas in Sydney and other parts of Australia, and they're insulated from the perils of diversity. The working white class has been decimated in Australia. The Western Sydney white people are now a minority, and these people here, who are the corporate and political elite of Australia, keep pushing these policies that are totally destructive. And we saw it just recently in Parliament, a motion that Pauline Hanson put forward about it's okay to be white. And we had people, we had senators saying
you can't host people, get it on camera.
So that goes to show you the level of commitment
Yeah, he's
that
been
people have
doing
in
that for
Australia,
ages. And he's posing
our senators and politicians, to maintaining Australia's identity. They don't give a rat's ass.
Where?
Sorry, I've got a
Right?
question for
You're
you.
quite happy to see them dumped in Western Sydney because you're a freaking hypocrite. Lefty, hypocrite.
Get off the road, please. Thank you.
And they're allowed on the road?
Whoever you support, and I don't give a rat's, where it's the Australian Greens, the Labor Party or the Liberal Party, they're all left-wing parties. The Liberal Party is owned by the political left. The fact that a soft lefty like Malcolm Turnbull got into the leadership of the party and is nothing more than a Labor man in disguise speaks for itself.
What do you say?
Turnbull was a lefty right from the start.
What do you say to all these people who contribute to loss in this country?
I don't give a rat's, it's not their country. They've got their own countries. The Arab oil states, there's 5 of them and they're loaded with petrodollars. How many refugees have they taken?
There, can you answer that?
It is not the job
What-
of the
what
Christian,
do you-
it is not the job of the Christian world to take Muslim refugees. This is a Christian country, and we want to maintain that. If they want to bring their religion here and all their
That is
weirdo
not
doctrines and all
true.
their
This
values,
country is not a
their
Christian.
values
It was founded
are not
by Christians.
consistent with
That's okay.
Australian
It was
Times are
founded by
changing now.
Christians. It doesn't
Times are
matter.
changing.
Those
Changing
institutions
for
were
the better.
founded.
In a bad way,
It's only
that's right.
changing because of immigration. That's why.
And changing for
It's
the better.
changing. No, it's not. Oh yeah. Where do you live? Australia's standard of living is going down the
And
tubes.
metal
Go out
bollards
and
around
divide
public areas in the major cities for fear that these morons might do a vehicle attack. And you're telling me that's how
What's
we're
the
living?
benefits? What's the benefits?
That's how
What's the
we're living
benefits of
here.
diversity and
I'm a Muslim
multiculturalism?
journalist contributing to
Yes,
this
Where's your
but what's
headscarf?
you know?
Where's your headscarf?
No, but where's
Muslim
you know
journalists
exactly?
contributing to this
And you've got the
country.
freedom. You've got the freedom in this country.
Yeah.
You've got the freedom in this country.
No, answer
Because you've got Muslim privilege.
And do
You've
you-
got
do you not
Muslim
agree that
privilege
you're
in Australia.
Would you be able to get around without
No,
a
we're not.
hijab in a Muslim country in Iran? You wouldn't be able to get around.
Saudi
without a
Arabia,
hijab.
maybe Pakistan.
And that's why I'm privileged to live here in Australia.
But you're still
Yes,
saying
because
you're
there's
Muslim,
something
you're still
wrong with your
identifying
religion.
as a Muslim.
That's
There's
right,
something
because
wrong
I
with
don't-
Islam.
I have a-
You know, and
I have
you
a lot of
Sikhs,
faith
you
in
Sikhs
them.
fought the Muslims for many years. You know, the rape of India that happened, the golden era they call it. when
you
the
don't
Muslims romped into the subcontinent and murdered millions.
And you don't think
Submission
right now
by the sword.
You're casting a broad
I'm just
brush
talking
against a lot
history.
of people who
I'm
contribute
talking
to
about
this
history.
country.
I'm talking about the historical fact.
And do you agree that what you're saying would be perceived as racist by a lot of people?
It's not, Islam's not a race.
Are you
Islam's not a race. Islam's not a race. Islam's not a
Do
race.
you have a job?
Islam's not a race. Islam's not a race, yeah?
Have a job.
Islam's not a race.
No, you're
Islam's
not.
not a race, yeah.
No, you're not. Get lost, mate.
Yeah. No, it's not your property. It's not your property. It's not your property. It doesn't matter. The footpath is not your property. Yes.
This is a public footpath.